What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. And as 3.5 quickly approaches, I just want to make a video essentially warning some of the players out there. Well, don't think of it as a warning, maybe that's a bad way to put it, but some advice to the newer players who maybe joined us post 3.0. What I mean by that is, if you joined after Sumeru started, now, for the vast majority of you guys likely are watching this as 2.0 players or even pre-2.0 players such as OGs. But if you guys see people wandering around on the internet questioning as to what is going on, right? Like, why this sudden wave of negativity, despair in some cases? I mean, for most people, it's just because dehya is kind of now in the dumpsters and gutted. But for people who have been through the 1.5 era, the 2.5 era, and now moving into the 3.5 era, we are very well accustomed to the Genshin, I guess, content abyss when it comes to mid patches. Now, this shouldn't come as a surprise to people who play other gacha games or just games in general, live service games. There will always be great patches, and by contrary, there will be some patches that are just not as great. But thankfully for Genshin, these comes in these kind of ups and down cycles that are very easy to spot. And at this point, EroticWalruss essentially has established a pattern. Whenever we start reaching past maybe the 4th or 5th patch during a region release, content slows down. EroticWalruss likes to fall back onto some recurring events such as the Windbloom Festival and whatnot. And when that happens, usually it's a sign also for the players to take a breather, stop. If you started during the Sumeru 3.0 patch, you likely don't know a single patch in Genshin that urges you to slow down the pace. And a lot of people back in the 1.0 era fell for this trap. They continued to bolster their accounts. They went even harder, especially when they see new shiny characters. They're like, damn, right? Like, we're gonna go in, let's keep pulling, let's keep summoning, let's keep growing our accounts. There's like, for in dehya's case, a pyro character is coming out. I am lacking a really good 5-star pyro character, right? Because I decided to go for Yelan instead of Huta. Let's go for this and that. And when you don't take breaks in Genshin, a couple things ends up happening really fast. Genshin is a game that in design is supposed to be played sparingly. This is very evident by the way they've designed their endgame. By the time you pretty much get to AR 57 or 58, most of your daily chores consist of doing your daily commissions and then farming some artifacts or farming some talents. That's pretty much it. There's nothing else to it. So by extension of you grinding your ass away in patch 3.5 only will accelerate you towards the end of the game. Now, that is not to say that there is no reason for you to continue to invest time and energy in progressing your account in these slower patches. What I really want people to know is when it comes to the value of Genshin banners, they're usually at the very start of a region and at the very end of a region. What I mean by that is the highest valued characters when it comes to pull value or whatever you guys want to call it, meta, usually are presented to us at the start of a region in the first 2 patches or so, and then the patch right before the new region. So think patch 1.6 Kazuha release, and then we got the Raiden release a couple patches after that, and also the Yelan patch, which was then quickly followed up by the Nahida patch. I expect no different when it comes to Sumeru. The patch before 4.0 is likely going to have something of value for you to pull on. Now, currently we don't know what that is going to be, but what I can tell you is EroticWalruss really likes these patterns. Just like how the Windbloom Festival is coming back, it's also going to bring back likely the Golden Archipelago, which allows players to explore these tropical islands and temporarily forget about Genshin's storyline and all the other things that bothers you. It's just a time to relax. And then they're going to hit you with the hard stuff, meaning that you're going to have to make a very important choice. Are you going to invest into this super powerful character that has a lot of potential versus, let's say, the Hydro Archon? Now, it's almost always a bad idea to skip an Archon if you want to enjoy the new patch and the new metascape, as well as just getting your hands on a character that has a lot more effort put into it design-wise compared to other characters. You can't tell me that dehya has more effort and consideration put into her as compared to someone like Nahida, right? The discrepancy is there and it's very obvious. For players watching this who are now thinking, well, like, you know, what are we going to do in 3.5? I'm skipping dehya. What should I do? Should I summon for any of the characters? Are they any good? Well, first and foremost, that's for you to decide, but I'll also likely make videos discussing that in the future. But I can tell you, sometimes for Hoyoverse, they're just throwaway patches, throwaway banners that are meant to kind of trick a couple naive spenders and at the same time present some whaling opportunities for the giga spenders. For most of us, which I'd say 80% of the player base who are caught in between, there's really little to do, and that's why you will likely see some frustration, some negativity. They're just expressed in different ways. Some people will be overly sarcastic towards everything for the next patch or two. Some people will be outwardly expressive and negative. Some people will be blindly positive for no particular reason, while at the same time their actions will dictate something completely different. Now, do those people have an agenda? That's for you to decide as well, right? Find out next patch, as Hoyoverse always like to say. That's for you to find out next patch when you play yourself. Same thing. There's really no great way to advise you without knowing exactly what your situation is. But let's just put it like this. If you're somebody who spends very sparingly in Genshin, maybe you only get the welcome moon. That's it. That's all you do. Or maybe if you're somebody who don't spend a single cent. I think I've highlighted probably 70% of the player base here, right? Like either you're a pure free-to-play or you spend maybe just the welcome moon. That's 70% of the player base. The other 30%, some people get the battle plats and the welcome moon. Some people spend $100, $200. Some people have a hard budget. At the end of the day, we all have different ways we want to play and enjoy the game. But this advice is targeted towards the people that I just mentioned, being the free-to-plays and the welcome moon players. Okay, the best thing you can possibly do for your account in a time like this is just stop. Cease all expenditures when it comes to Genshin Impact in terms of Primo Gems. A lot of the characters right now being offered are either whale bait or just option characters, meaning that yes, they're great to have and amazing characters by design and powerful 5 stars. Sure, if you hyper invest and build around them, it's going to be like this for the next maybe 2 to 3 patches, maybe just 2 patches, but chances are you're not going to be running into something extremely good. And even if it is extremely good on the surface, it may not be one of those top tier ground shattering units. Take Baiju, for example. A lot of people are expecting him to come really soon, but how revolutionary would Baiju be to, let's say, the Dendro Metascape versus Nahida, right? Like, sure, Baiju may be good, but is it worthwhile to pick him up if you have already got yourself a Nahida? Now, by definition, no character in this game is a must pull. Even people who claim, oh, Kazuha is a must pull, or people who say Nahida is a must pull. I wouldn't really say characters are a must pull in general. When it comes to characters such as the Archons, yes, they're great to have, but they really don't apply for every aspect of the game. Just like how, let's say, Raiden is designed to be a universal battery, as well as being potentially an electro hyper carry when she reaches C2. Outside of those uses, she kind of teeters off a little. What if a team has no need for a universal battery? What if a team has really good damage options that don't require a hyper carry in their team compositions, right? But if you take characters such as Nahida and say, well, when it comes to Dendro, is she a must pull? I honestly would say, yeah, if you truly believe in Dendro and want to invest into Dendro, she is pretty much a must pull character to fully realize the potential of the Dendro meta. But that's just me. There will be people arguing against it. Point is, you're never going to really run into a situation where you can truly say, oh, I must have this character, right? Like, because statistically, none of those characters exist. They don't exist. And by design, they don't exist, because if such a character did exist, you would only have to pull a handful of characters to complete the game and never need to pull essentially ever again. Hoyoverse's goal is always to incentivize you ever so slightly to pull newer units, to enjoy the game state, and once the meta shifts enough, you're going to get really uncomfortable. Just like the people who stubbornly used Mona all the way through the dimensional shift wolves. I keep forgetting what their name is, but those wolves really made people who skip Kokomi because they said, I have Mona, right? She has just enough hydro application to the point where I kill my enemies fast enough with Mona, freeze, never really need Kokomi. Then these wolves came around and people who stuck to playing Mona really felt it. It's not like they needed Kokomi. If you reran and ran it perfectly, and make sure you're as gamer as you possibly can be, maybe like adjust your keyboard a little bit, or sit up a little straighter, lean into your computer screen, or just wipe the sweat off your fingers between every run, you probably would have got through okay as well. But the point of Hoyoverse is never to make options non-viable. It's just to incentivize you ever more so slightly towards their meta options. Now, with all that being said, here's my final advice. For people who need to take a break, it's time to take a break. Really, I constantly tell people this, especially my own viewers. 3.5 is likely going to be a great time for most people to take a break if you're feeling burnt out. Even maybe up to 3.6. If you feel like it's such a waste, let's say you have a Welkin, just log in, get the Welkin, and maybe do your commissions. You really don't need to go crazy when it comes to these patches. I know you're building characters, I know you're building compositions, but as long as you're getting your Primo Gems incomes, that's pretty much all you need to do. I know for free-to-plays it's impossible to do that without playing the game, and by that extension, play the game. But if you want to continue playing this game without becoming bitter towards it, and this is the best advice I have towards it, yes, it's going to hurt you, is to take breaks when necessary. When there are non-huge patches that are designed to progress the game, and I'm talking like lore, character, and meta, stuff like that, it's best for you to take short breaks during these periods. And I promise you, when you come back, Genshin will actually feel just as lovely and vibrant as the first time you picked it up. Yes, everything I've said in this video is pretty much leading up to this point. No single piece of advice is going to be able to influence you in a way where it can shift your entire point of view for Genshin Impact or for any of these type of games in general. But if this helped you even a little bit, it's going to be great to be seeing you in future patches, and I do hope to see you back in future patches, especially for the patch right before 4.0, because we all know a character likely is going to come out from Liyue that is going to be changing the landscape of the game once again. Till next time, urge you all to stay safe, peace, and bye.